Hello and welcome to the 2020 LSU Ag Center Hybrid Rice Breeding Field Presentation. My name is Jim Ord. I'm the hybrid rice breeder here at the station at Crowley. And today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about some of the progress we made this year in our hybrids, and also talk to you a little bit about some of the breeding methodology and seed production practices that we feel are distinct from those of the conventional variety program used by Dr. Famoso here at the station. So, hybrids here in Louisiana are a viable option for some of the producers in our state due to exceptionally high yields that we typically see with hybrids as compared to the conventional varieties. Also, the hybrids tend to have a good disease package as compared to some of the conventional varieties. They are generally tolerant or resistant to a broad spectrum of our major foliar pathogens, including sheath blight and blast. And then finally, because of that disease-resistant spectrum, the hybrids tend to be a good fit for the row rice production technology that is taking off in northeast Louisiana and Arkansas as well. Now, of course, neither hybrids nor conventional varieties are perfect. There are some of the challenges that we see for some of the commercial hybrids grown here in Louisiana. For example, the grain quality issues are there for a lot of the hybrids. I'm talking about grain dimension variability. I'm talking about chalk issues in some of the mill grain. And so these are some of the issues that we're looking at for grain quality. Another big issue for hybrids is lodging. Near the end of the season, hybrids tend to be top heavy with grain, and they can fall down either in the water, which is very bad, or also at the end of the field season. So, and finally, another factor for consideration of the Louisiana rice producer is the initial cost of purchasing the hybrid seed. So these are very important considerations that each producer must take into account when he's selecting either a hybrid or a conventional variety to grow, and sometimes either a combination of two in any one given season. So our goal here at the rice station is to develop commercial hybrids with high yield potential, good grain quality issues that meets the industry standards, and also produce hybrids that are tolerant or resistant to lodging, which is a very important consideration for hybrid production here in South Louisiana and also in North Louisiana. Yeah, okay. So some of the breeding practices and seed production practices that we use for hybrids are very distinct from those of conventional variety development. And a perfect example is shown here in this micro seed production plot that I have here to my left. So for example, we pay a lot of attention to breeding special lines that are actually pollen sterile during the summer. And we call them the female parents. And then one example is shown here, and the other two shorter plants there on my left. So not only should they be pollen sterile, but we want them to be fairly short in height, short in stature, meaning 35 inches or less is ideal for these female parents. So not only must they have the height and the pollen sterility, they also need to be able to mature and flower at the same time with a corresponding taller male parent that is shown here in the center and then on the edge on the left. So we want the tall parent that has fertile pollen to transfer its pollen to the pollen sterile female that is shorter next to it to maximize hybrid seed production. Okay, so that is very distinct method of seed production that you see compared to conventional varietal development. So in this small production plot, there's a lot of considerations we need to think about. For example, the planting date, the seeding rate. Are we going to use plant growth regulators such as gibberellic acid to optimize and maximize the hybrid seed production coming off of these female plants? So about just before flowering, what we will do, we will put up pollen barriers for each of these hybrid plots to ensure that pollen from outside sources do not come and land on that female. This ensures purity of our hybrid seed that we produce in these plots. Now, we do have on station, typically every year, larger seed production plots that are 1 acre or less in size. And so what we do in that case is we take actually a rope and pass over the male and female plants at the time of flowering. To facilitate and optimize the seed production of those hybrid seed produced on the female plants. Now, of course, we have tried the use of small drones in these seed production plots, but as it turns out, with the 1 acre or less, a good old-fashioned rope on both ends, passing over the male and female flowers at the right time, actually is quicker and more efficient than actual use of a drone. For these microplots, what we'll do, since they're so small, we'll actually take a stick, and at the right time we will hit and agitate the male that was full of fertile pollen for maximum transfer, again, to adjacent female plant to maximize seed production with our breeding program. Now, of course, in commercial seed production schemes, this sort of technique is not appropriate. So what they do in large acreages of hybrid seed production in South Louisiana, they will actually use a commercial helicopter that passes several times over the male rows to facilitate dispersal of those fertile pollen onto the female parent, and actually works quite well with those copter blades. They can disperse pollen over quite a wide area for actually an effective seed production technology. Now, what we see in Asia is actually the use of fixed-wing drones for hybrid seed production that I understand is actually working out quite well for mainly the Chinese at this time. So perhaps one day we're going to be able to see fixed-wing drones for maximizing hybrid seed production here in South Louisiana. So this year in 2020, we've made, I believe, very good progress in the advancement of some candidate elite hybrids for further evaluation and eventual commercialization. So I'm showing you some of those elite hybrids here in this demonstration area. For example, on my right, we have 4 Clearfield, new Clearfield hybrids that were developed by new parental female and male lines that we talked about earlier. And on my left, we have actually 5 new Previsia hybrids that again were developed by new parents, new female and new male parents. So all of these 9 hybrids are showing high yield potential, good grain quality characteristics that meet our industry standards. And also, they have shown in limited field plot trials tolerance to lodging. So what we want to do next is take these and other candidate hybrids and move them into multi-location yield trials across Louisiana, up to 8 locations depending on seed availability. And we'll do that in cooperation with Dr. Famoso and his conventional breeding program. So again, I think we've made some very good progress here in moving this material along toward commercialization. And that's the comments that I have for you today. I want to thank you for watching this presentation, and I hope to see you in 2021 where we can have a normal live event at the Rice Station Field Day here in Crowley. So thank you again for watching. I also want to thank the Louisiana Rice Research Board for funding of this particular project. And I also want to give thanks to 3 graduate students that have provided a lot of invaluable help toward development of these candidate hybrids. So again, thank you to the Rice Board for the assistance, and to the graduate students.